Hi there, how are you? I hope you are doing well. I'm Joy McLaughlin, and I am part of the Renewal Project. There are a lot of people that just really don't know what the Renewal Project is, so I thought I would put out a video and just kind of let you know what Renewal Project is and what we do. Renewal Project is an organization that was formed about 8 years ago by my husband, Todd, and I, and then another couple, Trayson and Regina Luna. And our goal, clear back then, remains the same as it is now, to help people walk in the freedom that Jesus paid for by his death and resurrection. Now, freedom is a word that is just kind of used widely. And so I just want to explain a little bit more what we mean by freedom. You know, if you've lived more than a year or two on this earth, you probably have had experiences that were hard or even traumatic and just kind of left you with just places in your soul, which is your mind, will, and emotion, that just kind of were wounded or unhealed. You know, anytime we have interactions with people, they can be encouraging and uplifting, or they can be not so encouraging and uplifting. And as a result of those not great experiences, we can be left with emotional wounds. And those wounds, if left unhealed, tend to just kind of wreak havoc in our lives. You know, it becomes a filter that we look at the rest of our life through. So if we experienced abuse at the hands of another person, maybe it was a father or a mother or a teacher, somebody in authority, you know, then the next time we meet a person in authority, if we have not been healed from those wounds, we can kind of look at that next person through that. And so instead of expecting good outcomes, we can just kind of be expecting the worst. If we were subject to something that caused fear in our lives early on or at any point, if that place that was that open door for fear hasn't really been allowed to be healed by Jesus, then we can just walk in a lot of fear for just things that are completely unrelated to that event that we experienced. And so recognizing that, we just really wanted to make a place where people could get healed from those places. A lot of times we just kind of satiate ourselves with temporary or superficial fixes, but it doesn't get to the root. And if we don't get to the root, they'll come back. And a lot of times they come back worse because they've, been festering for so long. So Renewal Project was formed to teach, instruct, and give people biblical tools, biblical truths to help them overcome those areas, to get things out at their roots and to get healed up so that they can move forward without carrying that emotional baggage that so many of us, have acquired over the years. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. At the Renewal Project, we meet one-on-one, or usually it's 2 team members with a person, for what we call breakthrough sessions. If it's just like, there's this one thing I just can't seem to get past. So that's one area. We also do conferences, like an evening and the next day, or a couple of days, where we really just kind of go through the process together with a larger group and allow for individual attention ministry as well. We also are just putting out our first online course because, we're a small team and we have the rest of our lives going on with family and jobs and that kind of stuff. And so what we wanted to do was to make a course that is completely online. It's self-guided and it's self-paced, that people could go through by themselves and just work through it at their own pace. And, we offer support along the way. We're still kind of working out all of those details, but, there's so many people that need it. You probably know people that you're like, you know what? I think they could use it. And maybe that's you too. It was me. And I still employ all of the things that I've learned over the years in my own life as something, kind of comes to the surface. And I'm like, oh, wow. Maybe that's something that just hasn't really been properly dealt with. Then I use the same tools that we teach you to get to the roots of those things. So the online course, and there's more to come. I'm so excited. There are several more in the works for marriage and for just a lot of more individualized areas as well for children, not necessarily little children, but for children that are old enough to understand. Yeah, so we have a lot more coming. We're very excited about that. And we also are in the process, a couple of our team members are in the process also of finishing up certification for life coaching to be able to offer that as well. Biblically based with a focus, on the inner healing and getting to the roots of things. And, really going back to the example of fear. If you experienced an event where fear entered your life, and maybe it was in regards to a snake, say, but if that fear is left undealt with, then the fear can be about going outside your house or driving a car or being in public or eating certain foods or just safety in general, because it's not discriminate. It will just invade whatever part of your life it's allowed to. And that's a whole other topic too, is about what we come into agreement with, and that'll be discussed in another video. But anyways, so I hope that kind of helps clear up a little bit about what Renewal Project is. Our website is the-renewal-project.com, and we have resources on there, and we are just continuing to add them, and you can get more information. You can reach out to us too if something that I said today just kind of clicked with you and you're like, you know what, I think I could use this. We would love to hear from you. So be blessed. Have a great day. Thanks.